Since many of you may have Windows machines, I also made a video for showing some useful concepts and examples, like a brief overview of how Windows file system and command line differs from Linux or generally Unix-like systems, as well as show you how to install different tools we're going to need in the bootcamp on a Windows operating system. So first of all, as I explained, Windows file system has multiple roots, not just one, which are called drives. Within those drives, however, you have the same hierarchy of files and folders. In Windows, also unlike Unix systems, not everything is a file with just a different type, but rather its own thing like a device or a driver or a folder. So these things are not represented as files. Also note that we use backward slashes in Windows for path of directories instead of forward slashes in Unix-like systems. Another big difference is that compared to Unix, applications aren't split and distributed into different directories when installing them. Instead, all the application files are installed in one place or one folder, mostly under C drive program files directory. As for the command line, we have mostly different commands on Windows because Windows uses different shell programs. For example, dir command is used for displaying directory contents. And even though cd command is the same here as well, almost all other Linux commands are not available in Windows. So on Windows, you have to learn completely new commands for doing the same stuff. And as a result, Windows scripts also have a different syntax, obviously. Generally, note that Windows operating system was originally optimized and still is more optimized for graphical user interface and not so much for the command line interface. So Windows CLI isn't so much fun to work with. To work around this, however, you can download and configure various terminal applications where you can use more Unix-like commands to work properly with the command line. Now let's actually install and configure some software on Windows operating system, which you will need for the bootcamp. Now in the Build Tools module, throughout all the videos that you're going to see, we're going to be using a couple of technologies and a couple of projects in order to learn different build tools. And to use those technologies, obviously, you first have to install them, to set them up, to install them, and to get them ready to work. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you in this video, how to install all of these tools. So first of all, we're going to set up IntelliJ IDE, Integrated Development Environment. So this is going to be your code editor. This is going to be a place where you open all your projects and also run commands. Once we have set up IntelliJ, we're going to install Java, Maven, and see how to open a Java Maven project in IntelliJ and how to run it. And after that, we're going to set up a Java Gradle project in IntelliJ. And finally, we're going to install Node.js and NPM on a Windows machine. Now, I'm going to be using a virtual machine of Windows, which is hosted on my Mac. So you will see that the quality is not very sharp and also it may be a little bit slow. And that's the reason for that. But other than that, everything else should be fine. So this is a Windows 10, but most of the stuff that I'm going to explain to you is general Windows knowledge and how to install different tools on Windows. So with that, let's just dive in and start by installing IntelliJ on our Windows machine. I'm just going to go to a browser. I'm just using all the defaults. I haven't configured any new browser or anything yet here. So we're just going to type in IntelliJ, download. And this is basically where you can download IntelliJ from. And we're going to go with the community version, which is free. And this is going to be just enough for all our projects and all our needs. So go ahead and download community version. It's going to take some time, so we're going to wait until that downloads. So the executable was downloaded. So I'm going to go to the folder in the downloads And I'm just gonna double click on it. I'm gonna allow the access, and this is basically an installation wizard. So we're just gonna do next. So that's the destination of where the application will be installed. We're gonna leave that at default, and next, and just install it. And once the installation is completed, we're gonna see IntelliJ starting up. And we have a fresh new screen where there are no projects, and we can start by creating a new project in IntelliJ, or if you have a project already downloaded from Git or GitLab or GitHub, whatever you have your code, you can open it using this button here, or you can also fetch it directly from a Git repository, which is what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to basically get the code directly using IntelliJ in my editor from my GitLab account. So I'm gonna click on this. And also, if you don't have Git locally, it will show you here a link saying download Git. So you can basically just click on it and IntelliJ will take care of it in the background. And this is going to be a URL of my Git project. And these are going to be the exact same projects that you are going to use in the next videos in this Build Tools module. So here I'm going to show you how to set up and import and open each one of them in IntelliJ. So the first one is going to be the Java Maven project. And I'm going to paste in the GitLab URL for the project, which you can find in the lecture description. Once it is correctly entered, I'm going to click clone. And this will start basically fetching the repository from GitLab to my Windows machine. And once it's fully fetched, it's going to then open it in IntelliJ editor. And I'm going to do trust project. And as you see here, it automatically opens the project, and then you're going to see what actually happens in IntelliJ once the project is opened. And this is basically our project. And as you see right here, it says resolving Maven dependencies. So basically IntelliJ already detected that this is a Java Maven project, and it also saw that there is a pom.xml file with dependencies inside. And it basically starts downloading all the dependencies and basically just setting up your project inside IntelliJ. So you don't have to take any action. It will take care of all of this for you. And as you saw, the project structure basically got created, and that's why you see a different view now. We have this project folder here, and if I expand this, you have a nice source folder. So everything is basically now structured in a proper Maven project, right? So IntelliJ basically detected it's a Maven project and did all the necessary stuff to render it as a Maven project. Now, you don't have to understand any of these files yet and what the pom.xml is and what the dependencies are. I'm going to cover that in the later videos of Build Tools. Right now, just concentrate and focus on opening this project in your IntelliJ editor and getting the project up and running. And you see that it's still downloading some plugins. So we're going to need to wait until all of that is done. So as you see, everything was installed. There is no activity right here. And also in IntelliJ, you have everything really nicely integrated, right? So because it's a Maven project, IntelliJ also gives you the corresponding Maven tab here. So if I click on it, it will actually expand and show me the Maven plugins, the Maven dependencies. So basically a different structure of the application with the proper view. Now, again, this is something that IntelliJ does for you depending on which build tool you're using. So that's actually very helpful. And if you want to refresh your state, re-download everything, or basically just refresh the Maven, you can also click on this button here. So that means that everything is set from IntelliJ's side. And now I'm going to go to my source and actually open up my application.java file. And as you see here, once it actually rendered everything, it shows me in red color that all of these things are actually not defined, right? And it says also here, project JDK is not defined. And that basically means that it cannot resolve any of those words because it's written in Java and there is no Java available on my Windows machine at the moment, right? So IntelliJ does not know how to resolve them because there is no JDK or Java Development Kit that IntelliJ can find. And if I click here on Setup SDK, I have a shortcut of what action I can take. And also I can show you another place where you can actually see all the project settings, including whether Java is defined for the project. So in File, Project Structure, you see right here, no SDK, right? And you don't have to understand exactly now what SDK means and how all this works, because this is actually mostly part of developers' work and how developers actually set up their projects. So you as a DevOps engineer do not have to have a deep knowledge in that. However, just to give you an idea, since the project is written in Java, we have to install Java locally so that the application can run, right? Because it's a Java application and it needs Java to run it. And that's basically where the SDK comes from, because we need a Java software development kit that's a JDK for Java right here. So there are two parts here. You need Java to run your application once you wrote it. And SDK is basically Java software development kit that helps you develop in Java language. And that's exactly what you have to configure for your project. So because we don't have that installed on our machine, IntelliJ doesn't know how to find it or where to find it, and therefore it cannot resolve any of these Java functions and Java classes, etc. And that's why we need to add a JDK here. And in IntelliJ, actually, you have a shortcut for downloading JDK, right? Which is right here, download JDK, and it will basically in the background do it for you. Alternatively, you can download JDK yourself. You can go on a website of Oracle JDK and then basically just install it. I'm just going to click on download JDK because it's a convenient shortcut way to do that. And we're going to wait for that to finish. In this dialog box, you have to choose the version of Java you want to install. And we're not going to choose the latest version. And the reason for that is because later we're going to be working with Java Gradle application. And the latest Java version is not compatible with Gradle version yet. So we will specify a different version here. We can leave the vendor as Amazon. And this is the location where it's going to be downloaded into. So I'm going to click on download. And again, in IntelliJ, you have these installing or downloading, etc. progress bars right here. So you can check that something is basically executing in the background. So let's wait for that to install. So installation is completed. And right here, you see that Java is selected. And I'm going to do apply and OK. And now let's give it a couple of seconds, actually, because you see scanning files to index. And all this red color actually should disappear. And the moment the indexing was complete, all the red color disappeared. And here you see basically all the Java classes and basically Java syntax is working again, right? Because there is a JDK installed and set up for this project in the background. So IntelliJ uses that JDK to basically resolve everything that you write here in Java. Again, you don't have to understand this code. You're just going to be using it to build the application, but you're not going to be writing any code in here. And now that we have installed Java and it's configured for the project and for IntelliJ, we can actually run our application. So right here, you see this green triangle. So if I click here, it says run application.main. So if I click, this will actually execute this application. And we're going to see the results of that run in the console in a second. Again, we see a progress here that it's building the application before it can run it. And here we have a pop-up of the application logs. Note here, this is run tab. So whenever you run an application, it actually starts in this special tab, which is called run. And here we see that our application started and we have some application logs here, right? So everything looks good. We can start our application in IntelliJ. That's already great. And if you want to stop your application, you can either right here or right here, you can actually stop the application using this red square and it will terminate the application. Another really useful feature of IntelliJ is that it provides you with a terminal, a command line interface within the editor, right? So here you have this terminal tab and it can be configured so that we can run the exact same commands here in IntelliJ as we do in the command line interface. If the default IntelliJ terminal uses Windows PowerShell, like mine does here, we can just update IntelliJ settings. If you click File and Settings, and then under Tools, Terminal, change the selection to cmd.x or executable, and then apply the change. And after I restart the terminal, it will actually give me a proper command line interface, just like this one right here, and I can type any commands here. And now since we installed Java, we should be able to run Java commands on our machine, right? However, if I type in Java here and execute, it says that Java is not recognized as a command because when I execute it, it doesn't know where Java executable is actually located, right? Even though we have it installed locally. It means that if I want to execute Java now with this configuration, I would have to go to the location where Java was installed by IntelliJ, which is in this folder here under my users directory. And inside that folder, there is bin or binary, Java binary, executable. And inside that there is Java. So that's actually now a full path to Java command. So if I want to execute a Java command now, let's say print out the version and execute. And here you see the OpenJDK version. So that's how we can actually execute Java now. However, obviously that's inconvenient. And if you want to be able to execute Java without specifying the full path, right? Just like this, in Windows, you actually have to specifically set location of the executable of whatever command you want to execute, right? So for Java, we want to tell Windows, hey, whenever I type Java here, I want you to know that the executable for that command is actually at this location, right? So now Windows will know how to execute it. And that is actually going to be very useful to know for a lot of technologies. And we're going to use that multiple times in this video. And to do that, it's actually pretty easy. In the search bar here, I'm going to type in advanced system settings, which opens a dialog directly with environment variables. And the environment variables are split into user variables and system variables. So these are my user-specific environment variables, which other users basically don't see or doesn't interfere with other users' variable on the same machine. And they're variables, environment variables, system-wide. So these are basically something that is set on the whole machine and every user will have access to them. And one of those system variables is called path. And this is actually locations, so a list of locations of different technologies and different commands that Windows will know how to execute without specifying the full location or full path all the time. And that's where we're going to add our Java executable location as well. So I'm going to mark this, I'm going to select the path, and then I'm going to click Edit. And here you see a nice view with a list of all the locations, and I'm just going to add a new one. And the new one is going to be the full path. Let me select it here, the full path to bin location, right? So the bin folder. And going back here, let's do new. I'm just gonna paste it here, right? So again, very important. It's not the OpenJDK location, is actually the binary folder location, right? This is the folder where java.exe file or Java executable file is located. And I'm gonna click OK. So the path will be added, and click OK here as well. And note that for this to actually take effect, we need to restart our session. So in the same session, if I do Java, it's still unrecognized, right? However, if I open a new terminal from here, for example, and if I do Java here, you see that command is available. And also, if I want to print out the path variable, you see that this path is appended there, right? So it's part of the path. And that means if we want to make it available in IntelliJ also, we need to restart IntelliJ, right? Because just simply starting a new terminal session here does not help. And that's why I'm just gonna restart IntelliJ. Close window, exit, and once reopened, I'm just gonna do Java here, and the command should be available. Awesome. So we have successfully run our Java application in the IntelliJ. We have set Java executable path inside our Windows machine so that we can execute it with simple Java command. Now, as a next step, we want to install Maven. So we have Maven commands available to build our application. And Maven is actually written in Java and is mostly used for building Java applications. And because of that, the prerequisite of Maven is also Java SDK, right? Which we have installed already. So that one prerequisite is fulfilled. Another prerequisite is having Java executable in the path, because behind the scenes, Maven uses the Java commands, and that's what we set with the path environment variable. So that one is done as well. And the third thing we need to set for Maven is another environment variable called Java Home. And we have to set that also before we install Maven. In the same way we did it, I'm going to go to Advanced System Settings, Environment Variables. And right here, we are going to add a new environment variable because it's not there yet in the system variables. So I'm going to do new. And this is going to be called Java Home. And note that this is the name of environment variable. You can't call it something else. And the value of that is actually the location of the OpenJDK without the bin folder, right? That's the only difference here. So I'm going to paste it in. So this is the OpenJDK folder, not the /bin. And that is the location of Java Home, right? That's where the variable Java Home points to. So I'm going to save this. And let's actually leave this if we need that later. And again, right now, if I do Java Home, it's not going to show the value because we need to restart the whole session. So if I close this, and because I don't want to restart IntelliJ, again, I'm going to do it in the command line terminal. So again, Java Home. And there you go. So this one is set as well. So now we're ready to install Maven, which is actually pretty easy.